Ah.
How long you been into this?
It's probably last August, so
Cool.
not too long.
Nice.
And they didn't really have a lot of people interested in being net control for the Preparedness Net, and I was interested in it, so I took over.
Nice, man.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Colorado Preparedness Net. This is KE0TCM. That's Kilo Echo 0, Tango Charlie Mike. My name is Jacob, and I will be net control today, transmitting from Littleton. This is a directed net that meets each Saturday at 9:30 a.m. local time for the discussion of preparedness for disasters or other events that could or have affected our beautiful state. This net may be interrupted at any time for emergency or priority traffic. If you need to use the system during the net, please say break. You will be acknowledged by net control, and we will suspend the net until you are clear. That's good. The Colorado Connection is a system of 15 repeaters throughout the state of Colorado that are linked together using 2-meter communications. Please keep in mind a couple of things here. If it's your turn to speak, do not key up and release to see if you have it, and then talk again. That just puts extra stress on the system. Before you key up and after the last transmission is ended, please pause a few seconds in case someone needs to break in. When it's your turn to speak, key the mic and then wait 2 seconds to speak so we can hear your full transmission. Please keep in mind the timeout for the repeater is 2 minutes. Today we have a special net. We have John from the founder of the website theprepared.com, and we're going to kind of do a little Q&A with him. And so think up any preparedness questions you might have, or anything with his website, or a lot of things. So we'll turn the time over to him in a second. I'll take check-ins in alphabetical order based on the suffix of your call sign. Please check in slowly, and please speak slowly so I can keep up with your call sign in ITU phonetics. And you'll state your name and then your location as well. So I also want to ask everyone if you would be interested in doing a group trauma class. We had someone on the net last week say that he knows someone who teaches a really good trauma class. And so if you'd like to get together with some of the other people on the Colorado Preparedness Net and take a group trauma class, let me know in with your call sign. We'll start with suffixes starting A through H, Alpha through Hotel. Please check in now. Hope I'm getting through.
Would that have made a difference?
I don't know, maybe.
Kilo, November 4, Bravo Hotel. I'm a little overcommitted right now. Back to that.
Station who just called in, I think you were KN4BH. Could you say everything again? I didn't hear you quite.
That's Kilo, November 4, Bravo Hotel Kilo. Nancy from Moultrie. Interested in the class, but a little bit overcommitted right now. Maybe another time.
Awesome. Thank you, BHK. Is there any other stations, Alpha through Hotel? Please check in now. It's weird. It's usually tons of people. Let's move on to India through Romeo. I through R, please come in now.
Jacob, I believe there's somebody out there trying to break in. This is N0SFW. You might want to let them come again. They might have an emergency or something. They sound very faint.
Somebody off George inside radio thing.
Did you get any of that?
Mm-hmm. I did hear them say break, I think. But nothing else.
K4NYN, I can relay that if you need, Jacob.
Yeah, if someone could help him out, I'm not able to understand or pick up what he's saying. KE0TCM.
This is K4NYN. Station calling. We hear you, Warner. Warner, that's Warner, KN0FOX. He's looking for his brother George, which is NJ9J, November, Juliet, Niner, Juliet. George, are you on frequency by chance? Warner.
Thank you.
Comment, K0QQR.
Okay.
I just tried calling George. There is no answer. George has stated before you have access to a phone and you have the ability to dial George on a consistent basis, and breaking into net is not good amateur radio practice. No one is answering. You need to start making these calls yourself. K0QQR back to net control.
Thank you, QQR. We'll continue with the net. Again, if anybody has any emergency or priority traffic, please call in with break. We'll continue taking check-ins out India through Romeo. I can't hear much.
Lima, Quebec, Papa, Mike, Centennial.
phone. Where'd I put it?
Want me to call it?
Oh, there it is. Legs.
K0QQR just for the call.
Awesome, thank you, QQR. Got you in for the count. And then also want to confirm, I got Mike and Centennial, LQP.
K0L2, Quebec Papa, that's Mike Centennial, that is confirmed correct.
Could you say that one more time, station? Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Got you in. Let's move on. Sierra through Zulu. Please check in now.
Good morning, and thanks for checking the net, Jacob. This is November 0 Sierra Foxtrot Whiskey and 0SW Scott in Denver. K4NYN, just making sure you got me, Jacob, and I did want to make an announcement.
Perfect. I got you in, NYN. Do you want to do your announcement now?
I think you double with somebody checking in. You want to check them in, and then I'll make it, and I'll keep it real brief.
All right. Thank you. Station who is trying to call in, could you please call in again?
Sorry about the double. This is November 0 Mike Tango November, Mark in Broomfield.
This is the Colorado connection.
K4NYN, would you like to go ahead with your traffic?
Thank you, Jacob. Thanks for doing the net again today. This is K4NYN, Kilo 4, November Yankee November, Charlie, Coal Creek Canyon. I was the station that Jacob was referring to that has a connection with an excellent trauma casualty care trainer. And we talked about it a little bit on the net last week, and then I brought it up on the Simplex Prepper Net on Wednesday. We've had a pretty good response, so I just wanted to put it out there again. My email, if you're interested, is canyonfireguy, all one word, @gmail.com. And if Jacob wants to give out a QRZ or an email or something, contact him as well. But if you are interested, just get in touch with one of us. I did email Jacob so we can get all the names together. I did speak to my friend via text message, and he's down with it. I think he can get us a pretty reasonable price if we have.
Would you be interested in a trauma class?
Folks that are interested. So just wanted to throw it out there and make sure we keep the wheels rolling on it. But
Yeah.
Maybe.
Jacob an email and let us know if you're interested.
Although I've gone through a lot lately, and they tend to be the same.
Yeah.
K4NYN, back to net.
I've never done one, so
They're worth it.
I'm interested. Awesome. Thank you for that announcement, Charlie. Yeah, if anybody has, if anyone's interested in that group trauma class, we'll kind of work on a date and price and everything, but send an email either to him, canyonfireguy@gmail.com, or you can send one to me, ke0tcm@gmail.com, my call sign at gmail.com. Let's continue with the check-ins. We'll just open it the whole alphabet, Alpha through Zulu. Please call now. isn't going as smoothly as it usually does.
Well, a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah. That's just the repeater.
Echo 0, Tango Papa Whiskey, Joe in Colorado Springs. No traffic, KE0, TPW. Kilo Echo 0, Kilo Hotel Radio, South Denver, no traffic.
I think I got KE0TPW and KE0KHR. If you have a correction, let me know. All right. We'll take late check-ins later on, if there are any. Do we have any announcements of amateur radio interest? Please call Net Control. All right. So this is KE0TCM Net Control for the Colorado Preparedness Net. I'm not in my usual location, so sorry if I'm not coming in as clear. I'm up in Boulder with John, the founder and chief editor of theprepared.com. So I'll turn the time over to him, and he'll introduce himself, tell you a bit about his website, and then we'll go into our check-ins and see if they have any questions for him. So yeah, 1 second. Ready?
Sure.
All right. So talk to it as close as you can because we're kind of far away.
Okay. Mic is right there.
I think anywhere in there.
Good morning, everyone. I'm John Ramey, the founder of theprepared.com. Good to meet you all. Thank you for having me. And thank you to Jacob for organizing. I have been a prepper for a long time, basically my entire adult life. Have been teaching other people different parts of these skills for 10 years. And fun little fact, I was out in San Francisco for a long time working in the tech industry, and as far as I know, I was the first outed prepper in Silicon Valley, and you can imagine what a different environment that was. I started The Prepared about 1.5 years ago. It's a free website that helps people get ready for all kinds of emergencies, ranging from daily stuff like job loss and car accidents, up through natural disasters and your Teotihuacan shit hit the fan kind of levels.
Okay, pause there. Every 2 minutes you have to release, and now you can go back on.
It's a bunch of reviews and how-tos. So, for example, if you Google best body armor, you'll land on our page. We do very long-form, in-depth content, very well-researched. That's one of the reasons I started this website. Was as a prepper, I was frustrated by the quality or lack of content that existed in our world. I was frustrated by how fringe some of it was, and felt like there was a much larger community that was being underserved. So we focus on very well-researched, deep content. Our average article is about 6,000 words, or a 20-minute read. So we don't do a lot of breaking news stuff. We don't do 14 ways to kill a zombie with a Q-tip. We focus on kind of practical preparedness, or sometimes Pareto preparedness, the 80-20 rule. Very middle of the bell curve, normal folks. We don't bring politics or propaganda or unjustified fear-mongering into it. It's just really meant to be kind of common sense, practical. What are the best, easiest, cheapest ways to get ready for emergencies? And that's our goal, is to help people do that. Should I wait for questions? Or?
Do you have anything else? Cool.
So I would encourage everybody to check out the site. Again, it's theprepared.com. It's totally free. The project is now up to 3 people full-time. I just added 2 guys a month or 2 ago, one of whom was the recent editor-in-chief of the Firearm blog, which I assume some of you are familiar with. The other was the founder and editor-in-chief of Ars Technica, and then the editor of Wired magazine. All 3 of us have been longtime preppers, and we act as kind of almost like an aggregator of various experts that we work with. So when we write an article about ham, for example, we coordinate with experts in the community to put together the best information possible to make it easy for people to learn these topics without getting stuck in the inside baseball. That's it for me, so I'll hand it back to Jacob.
N0 SFW, how did everything come in reception-wise?
Yeah, Jacob, everything came in very, very clear. I was able to hear both of you and everything very clear, full quieting and great into the repeater there. N0 SFW, back to net control.
That's Scott that asked that question.
Oh, cool.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. So let's open it up to questions. Let's start with KN4BHK in Lone Tree. Do you have any questions or any comments?
This is KN4BHK. Thank you very much for coming on the net today. I've actually just pulled up the website now and I'm thumbing through it. I'm sure there's a better question, but I don't know, what's for a case where you prep at home, I guess, and there's a situation that requires you and your family sort of live off what you have in your house. My specific question, I guess, is which is the most efficient way to store energy, I guess? You could think of solar, you could think of fuel generators, there's probably many things, but I don't know, what's the most practical way to store energy and which form should it be in? Back to that KN4BHK.
If you don't have any response, then just let me know.
Sure.
Okay. But yeah, respond when
Yeah, I'm thinking of it's a very situationally dependent answer.
you can say that.
Yeah. Thank you for the good question. The most accurate answer for the best way to store energy at home is, frustratingly, that it depends on the home and the situation. I can tell you, for example, that at my primary off-grid property, we rely very heavily on solar, and we have invested in, it was a high upfront investment, but we've invested in very high-quality batteries that will hold a charge. We don't have to worry about refilling them with water all the time, stuff like that. So if you have the capacity, right, a lot of it usually comes down to what can you do. So if you have the interest and the capacity, you don't have an HOA that'll freak out at you if you put up solar panels. Solar is the kind of the sweet spot right now. I do personally wish that wind would improve, and there is some movement happening in that market, but I still think it's got a little ways to go.
So,
So did they miss all that last?
just maybe say that last sentence.
So I hope I hope wind continues to improve. I would like to get to the point where, from an energy generation perspective, we have solar and wind as a practical solution for lay people. On the smaller end of the spectrum, you look at your kind of 18650 batteries, lithium ion packs, some of the Goal Zero type of storage packs. There's a lot of flaws with those products just based on the science of the energy storage, but the industry continues to improve, and it's, from a small portable consumer perspective, tends to be the best option that we have.
Maybe you can just ask him if he has any other comments or questions.
Any other questions?
Capture Cam 4 BHK.
Awesome. Great question, BHK. And let's move on to Scott in Denver, N0 SFW.
Hey, Jacob and John. Nice to meet your acquaintance. Love the site. I really like how you address it towards a regular person. I really like the product reviews. I just love the site to pieces. It's really good. I've read several of the reviews. As a matter of fact, you came out with one about small water storage containers right when I was about to buy some, so I took your advice and got the inexpensive Reliance ones. I just found out from what you said that you've got a pretty full staff up there. I had some ideas, but for maybe a shorter version for the beginner's guide to guns, because that can spook people sometimes with an overload of information. But I thought your article was very, very good, though. Just a great site all around, and I like your rational guide to prepping, especially for regular people. I don't really have any questions. I just wanted to state how much I love the site. N0SFW, back to net control.
Can I call him Scott?
Yeah.
Scott, thank you so much for the great compliments, man. I appreciate that. As an entrepreneur and starting a new project, I was telling Jake while we were getting ready that, it's tough building something in a vacuum that is different than the status quo, and you're always wondering, am I the only one that likes this? Am I just speaking to myself in a bubble? But the response from folks like you and the community over the last year and a half has been fantastic. I think we've really struck a chord in this community, right? There are millions of people like us who don't want to quit society and dig a hole in the woods and grow a 4-foot-long beard. We want to have happy, normal lives, or not have to quit society in order to become prepared. And that was where we were that was the audience that we were trying to talk to. And so I'm happy to say that the Prepared has been growing a lot. And it went from me being part-time to me being full-time. And then I just added these two guys about 2 months ago. We're working hard. We're growing. We're adding more content. And yeah, we talk a lot about common sense preparedness. In fact, if you Google common sense prepping, we're number 1, 2, and 3. How that happened, I don't know, but thank you, Google. We're always looking for, we're continuing to work on new topics. So just last night, we published 2 new reviews on the best multi-tools and the best hand saws. Today, I'm working on an article about how to clean and bandage a wound. We recently did work with tourniquets and how to use them. We're currently working on our field testing of backpacks for your bug-out bag and the ultimate medical supply list for your home and bug-out bag. Back to Jake.
Perfect, thanks. All right, let's move on to Charlie in Coal Creek Canyon, K4NYN. N0 SFW, can you still hear me? Shoot. What changed?
Having technical difficulties. Hopefully they get that solved quick, because I'm very interested in N0 SFW.
Can you hear me now, Scott?
Standing by.
Can you hear me now, Scott? KE0TCM.
Yes, we've got you loud and clear. Please proceed. We're highly interested. N0SFW, back to net control.
I don't know what was going on there, why we lost you. We were sitting parked. All right, Charlie in Coal Creek Canyon, K4NYN.
Hey, glad to have you back, gentlemen. I was afraid that was the end of it. So, yeah, hopefully you'll stay with us. This is a fantastic net, great topic. Thanks for bringing John in. What an impressive guest, Jacob. Well done. John, thank you for your time. Like everybody else has said, I'm checking out your website with vigor now too, and it's very, very good stuff. I'm about between 9 and 10 miles up Mountain Canyon here, Coal Creek Canyon, so I've kind of taken some fairly drastic measures in my life to get to a more, hopefully a bug-in situation and kind of out of the metro area. But a lot of the stuff on your website is, goes right up my flagpole, as they say. It's good stuff. Like you said, I think we all have to find that balance between what we're willing to accept to have a normal lifestyle, and still feel like we're prepared for most scenarios. I think that's the challenge with our lifestyle. And I can relate to what you said about being outed as a prepper in the Bay Area. I work in telecom, and yeah, my lifestyle, same thing. I kind of have to keep most of it under wraps, lest I be labeled as the whack job of the office, so I don't share that with very many people. I'm going to keep looking at the website, and I might make contact with you. If I have any questions on topics, I guess mine would be, you mentioned body armor, and that is one area that I have just done little or no prep on. I've looked at, plate carriers that go in backpacks. I've looked at having kind of a chest rig with some plates in it that I keep in a vehicle, spare mags and stuff like that. But I just haven't really found the right solution, or what I think will be the right solution, to start throwing money at it. So I would be very interested in hearing your thoughts on what you think is practical for that type of lifestyle, and what you think is the most effective way to get that for the least amount of money. K4NYN, back to net.
Well, thank you for more kind words, sir. That's very awesome of you. Thank you. I wanted to touch on the kind of stigma outed thing. A lot of people like us, like all of us in this conversation, we're not crazies, right? And we know that the prepper word was given a bad stigma, partly by the very, very, very vocal minority in the past, how the media would focus on that stereotype. But what I want to share with all of you is that that's changed. So one of the things that was very almost shocking to me as the Prepared was growing was the number of people that would kind of lean in and whisper, I'm really into this. We've even had spouses, like a married couple, independently, one of them will talk to us and say, hey, I don't tell my spouse because they'll think I'm cuckoo. And then the other spouse will say the same thing. And it's amazing to me how many people of all different shapes and sizes and colors and political affiliations and education or whatever are into this, because more and more people are realizing that our systems are not dependable, that we have lost 250,000 years worth of survival skills in less than 100. And people are waking up to that fact. So my encouragement to you is, you don't have to feel that fear of hiding in the closet as much as you used to. So we still recommend, don't, good OPSEC, right? You don't advertise the fact that you're prepared, but we definitely encourage people to open up a little bit more than they have in the past. Talk to your friends and family about it. The more people around you that are prepared, the stronger you are and the stronger they are. So I want the people around me to be prepared, and have taken steps to open it up a little bit more and not feel the fear of being so closeted.
Let's see if we still have them. I wonder if it's getting too hot or something. K4NYN, can you still hear us? There's so many things that go into play, like maybe just them pulling up their car.
Gone, so he wanted us to remind you of that. Because, like I said, we're all definitely hanging on every word to hear what you and John have to say. But yeah, I can read you loud and clear now. And when you've been on the air without the technical difficulties, you've been full quieting and loud and clear from my perspective. K4NYM.
Okay, good. I think when we just talk a bit too much, it overheats the little HT that I have and can't transmit for a bit. So I'm glad to hear that. So now I don't. When you release, you're supposed to hear the repeater.
Oh, the beep, beep, beep.
Yeah. So that's kind of what's throwing me off. That's what you get for a $25 radio. All right, let's move on to Mike and send.
Body armor.
Yeah. John wants to talk about body armor. One sec. And can you still hear me at N0SFW? I don't think you can. N0SFW, this is KE0TCM. Can you hear me? Shoot. Send him a text. Cool it down out there.
Yeah. You think it's the heat or our location?
I don't know. Because I've only noticed it cutting out when we talk for a while.
Okay.
And then it was feeling a bit hot, but
I'll be more concise.
you're good. N0SFW, can you hear me? Scott takes the Preparedness Net every other week, and I do every other week too, so
Cool.
he's got a pretty good setup, and
Big base station.
I think so, yeah.
Thanks for calling, Scott.
So, there we go. N0SFW, this is KE0TCM.
Scott is on a different system than I am. I'm on the Denver Boulder machine. K4NYM.
Yeah, he's been also on Denver Boulder, and don't know why he's not hearing us, but it appears to be
I can hear you guys now. Can you hear me? KE0TCM.
Yes, Jacob, we can hear you loud and clear. Have been the whole time. Hopefully we can work through this. Enzo SFW back to night control.
Work out the bugs. If we continue this next week, and possibly you can do it from a base station instead of trying to conduct it from an HT, and that's just only my 2 cents worth. But yeah, I am hearing you. W0DOK. Back to net.
Awesome. Thanks, Doc, and thanks, Scott. All right, let's move on to Mike or Charlie still about body armor. Thanks.
So there's a lot that goes into body armor. There's a 8,000 word article on the website if you want to really dig into it. When you're thinking about buying body armor for yourself, the first thing that matters is levels of protection. The National Institute of Justice rates these things, and so you'll see level 2, 3, 3A, 3+, 4. When you're thinking about emergency preparedness, we recommend going at least level 3+, and what that means is it can stop 95% of all the possible ammunition threats that you're likely to run into in the country. When people work in a prison or police officers, they tend to wear the vest styles rather than the plates. So soft armor versus hard armor. And soft armor is obviously nice because it's light and flexible, but it basically only stops pistols and sometimes knives and basic shotguns. Whereas if you want to be able to stop rifles, you have to have a hard plate. And those hard plates are made out of either a steel or a high density polyethylene plastic ceramic kind of manufactured polymer. That difference in the materials is your biggest kind of fork in the road when making a purchase. So you can buy a pretty decent level 3+ plate made out of steel for $120, maybe $100 for the chest plate. But it's going to be 7 pounds, it's 8 pounds, it's going to be thicker, and it's, you know, you're sacrificing some comfort for a much more affordable price point. If you want to spend a little more to have a big step up in comfort, then you're looking at the more advanced materials like ceramic and polyethylene. This is what a lot of the kind of high-speed operators in the military will use. Those plates will run anywhere between $400 to even $1,200. Anything over $600 for a plate is, we think it's unreasonable for civilians. So if you want the best protection, level 4, and you want it to be light and comfortable, you're looking at spending about $400, maybe $450 a plate. In terms of the plates themselves, we really only recommend that people get a front plate and a back plate for your core torso. You don't need to think about shoulders or a Kevlar helmet. You can get the side plates if you want that connect around kind of the cummerbund area around your ribs, and those are typically 6 by 6 inches. But anything else, whether it's shoulders or the crotch protector or any of that kind of stuff, is not worth it for the vast majority of people. Back to Jake.
I don't want to protect my crotch.
It's just then you've got all this.
Yeah. I think what happens is that we're transmitting for so long that it overheats my little HT, and then I can't hear you guys for a while, but hopefully you can hear me. N0SFW, can you get on your cell phone and kind of text me updates if you can hear things or if I'm cutting out? Oh, there we go.
Oh, certainly be glad to do that. There's not a whole lot to do to overcome a heating issue with HT there. You might try swapping batteries. The battery might act a little bit as a heat sink, you might say. So you might try swapping batteries. That might help a little bit. But I think Doc's suggestion of getting you on a true mobile rig or using someone's base station might be the way to go. Anyway, N0SW back to net control.
Thanks, Scott. I actually heard it that time. Let's move on to Mike and Centennial. LQP, are you still with us?
I don't know, half a year now. But my quick question is, stand by.
I'll try to not hold it as much, too.
This is the Colorado connection.
My question is, regarding food dehydrators, is it worth the money to purchase a food dehydrator or just to do it the oven method? Can you just talk a little on home dehydration and what would be the best bang for the buck there? And if there is one to buy, what would be a good recommendation of a dehydrator to buy? KE0, LQP, back to net.
Thanks for the question. Now, admittedly, we have not put our hands on a lot of different dehydrator models, so I hesitate to specify, this is the killer model. But I've also kind of inferred from the community that that most of the quality models are about the same, so it's not something where you really have to think about getting the best one. In terms of getting a proper dehydrator versus using, a DIY oven method, if you are the type of person where you want to dehydrate your own food and build up your own food stores in that manner, I think it makes sense to get a proper dehydrator product, because you're already going to be investing a lot of labor in getting that food prepared, and that's probably, usually when people do that, they tend to think of that dehydrated food as the core of their food prep. So I think it's better safe than sorry. Use a proper product. Make sure you've really taken the moisture out of it. If you think about freeze drying, there is a new product for the home, relatively new and affordable. It's in the $2,000 range from a company called Harvest. Back to Jake.
Says remind John that we can't swear on the air, like when you said. It's all good. Thanks for the good question, Mike. Just my 2 cents. I just got like a $20 or $30 cheapo from Walmart, and that's been working fantastic. I don't know why a lot of people spend the $300 on a Cabela's model. The cheaper one's been doing me pretty fine. I want to learn about solar dehydrating because in a true grid down scenario, when you want to prepare your food and stuff, that would be a good skill to learn, and it's free. But I recommend getting just a little cheap under $50 one. But then I also want to develop that skill of doing a solar and dehydrating with air and stuff, how they used to do it. Let's move on to QQR. I didn't get the first 2 of your call sign. If you're still with us and you can hear me, do you have any questions? a spare battery. Let's try that.
Channel mode.
That's a lot cooler. QQR, are you still with us? Is that one guy?
Mm-hmm.
Skip it. Let's move to Mark in Broomfield, N0MTN.
Hey, good morning, Jacob. Thank you. If you want to try again some other time, or you can provide a mobile radio we can set up with power supply.
That's nice.
And an antenna. No real questions. It just made me remember that I have a water filter in a shed, and I'm not sure if the filter dried out completely last summer, and I'm hoping it didn't freeze and crack. So it's one of the things I'm going to do this weekend is check that water filter. So thank you.
Have to replace that.
Well, good on you for thinking about that. It's amazing how many people will buy some basic supplies and then totally forget about them, or not check in on them, or not use them. And that's one of the most common prepper mistakes, is just buying a bunch of gear, throwing it in a shed or a closet, and forgetting about it. So kudos for using it and thinking about it. Fun little tip on water filtration and that whole topic. This came to mind because one of our readers emailed us a few days ago with this question. When you're thinking about water filtration, water purification, basically for anybody that lives in North America, we're really only worried about protozoa, Giardia, things like that. You basically don't need to worry about viruses in America. Viruses really only come into play when you're dealing with really bad municipal water systems, especially in hot tropical climates. So when you're thinking about your water setup, you don't really need to worry about viruses. And a PS on the body armor conversation earlier, the station asked about backpack armor. We haven't talked about backpack armor yet, because I wanted to see how that industry would progress a little bit. There's been a lot of activity since Parkland. We were just at SHOT Show 2 weeks ago and played with a lot of new backpack armor products from companies that have been created just in the last year. And my fundamental hesitation with kind of everyday carry armor or backpack armor is that in order for you to have a level of protection that would actually matter in a scenario like that, means you're going to be carrying around a bit of weight, especially for kids, right? I don't think a 9-year-old should be carrying 16 pounds of steel armor in their backpack. That said, we are going to put out some content this year about the right way to do everyday carry armor and the right backpack models that we see. It's just that the trade-off is going to be only protecting against pistol threats. It's impractical to carry something that's going to protect you against, a 308 AP round or an M855A1. That's impractical for EDC. That's it. Back to Jake.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Mark. Let's move on to KE0TPW in Colorado Springs.
This is KE0TPW, Joe in Colorado Springs. I didn't have any questions really, but I appreciate this presentation. It's really been interesting, and I will definitely check out your website. Thank you very much for the time you took to put into this to put it on the air, and I appreciate it.
This is KE0 PPW. Back to net.
You want to say something?
Well, thank you, sir. I guess I'll take this little minute to share some of the more common mistakes that we see among people when they're thinking about preparedness. And some of the biggest mistakes are people get tunnel vision. So they'll think about one specific scenario, like fascist alien zombies arriving on an asteroid, and they'll overly prepare just for that situation. A good prep is a flexible prep. You fundamentally cannot predict what's going to happen, how things are going to shake out, what the context is going to be. So when you're thinking about your preparedness, really take kind of an 80-20 scenario. What can you get high leverage out of in a bunch of different scenarios?
You want to tell them about 80-20?
So I've referred to the 80-20 rule a few times, also called the Pareto principle. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. It's basically the concept that 20% of the work gives you 80% of the value, or when you're working with a team at your job, 20% of the people do 80% of the work. It's kind of one of these natural laws of how things tend to shake out in nature. But it's a good way to think about prepping. So instead of getting some overly specialized thing, a water filter for $20 is a perfect example of an 80-20 thing, because it'll cover almost any scenario you need. You're not overly optimizing for a very narrow scenario. A derivative of this kind of mentality is the bugging in versus bugging out conversation, and we see a lot of people make the mistake of just saying, oh, I don't have to do anything for bugging out because my plan is to bug in. And I just think that that's philosophically wrong. It's wonderful if you want to build your home to bug in, but you also need to be able to bug out. Of course it varies, right? If you live in the middle of a big city, you are more likely going to need to bug out than if you've got a great compound in the country. But by and large, anyone, no matter what your circumstances, needs to think about that unpredictability and that flexibility. Because even if you've got a totally off-grid homestead and you quote-unquote plan on bugging in, a wildfire might come your way and push you out of your home. So this just all illustrates the point that don't get tunnel vision. Think about flexibility, things you can get leverage out of, and embrace the fact that when we're thinking about emergency preparedness, you just fundamentally can't predict exactly what's going to happen. Back to Jacob.
Perfect. Let's move on to KE0KHR. Do you have anything to add, KHR? So we dropped out. It's kind of cool, like just how the atmosphere and the weather changes too. It reflects radio signals off and
for sure
can hit things perfectly. So
yeah.
N0 SFW KE0 TCM.
Go ahead, Scott here. N0 SFW.
All right, thanks, Scott. Yep, you're being my little checker if I'm back on. Let's move on to KE0KHR. KHR.
KHR, just once again, I'm working right now, and could you send your website once again, and I'll be on the side, KE0KHR.
wants to know what your website is.
Thank you. The website is theprepared.com. Theprepared.com. You can also find it by Googling prepping for beginners, common sense prepping, things like that. Again, theprepared.com. Thank you.
Sweet.
Someone station earlier mentioned having those short-term jerry can water containers, 5 gallons, 7 gallons. That's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. So if you have a proper storage container, it's food grade plastic, it's opaque so that it doesn't let light in, you store it in a proper area like inside your home, and you filled it with water that was safe to begin with, like municipal tap water that already has been treated with chemicals, that tap water will survive in that container for 2 or 3 years, absolutely no problem. So what I do is I have 15 gallons of potable water per person in my home stored in these jerry cans, and every 2 years I just dump it out, put a little bit of soap to just clean it out, and then put more tap water back in, and I'm confident that it would be safe for at least a few years. Doc and Littleton, did you copy all that? Maybe no.
Annoying thing.
Channel mode.
W0DOK, did you hear everything we said? I think we lost you guys again. If you can hear us, stay tuned. 1 second.
Delta Oscar Kilo, back to you.
Oh, there it is.
So trying to get towards I kind of rather field south.
This is Alpha Charlie 0 Hotel Whiskey. I have a message for that braking station.
Go ahead.
Warner, this is Richard, ACZHW. I called up George. The phone rang for 60 seconds. And, rang about 12 times or so. It's not going to that voicemail message anymore. So, Mike KE0QQR called earlier. That's around 9:30 or 9:30 to 10. So I just called now, and George is not answering the phone. Warner, so if you can stop breaking into the net. We've tried to contact George, but he's not answering the phone. This is ACZHW back to net.
Most interesting thing I've heard.
Well, I hope they can hear me.
Yeah, I hope so. I'll upload this to YouTube, so I can share it with them on there.
Cool.
If it's going through. Alright, this is KE0TCM. I think I'm back. How do I sound, Scott? N0SFW, can you hear me? Sorry about this.
No worries, buddy. That's why you practice it, right?
Yep. But you gotta head out soon, or?
I mean, I'm flexible. Not too much longer, but
Yeah.
I don't have a. We're going out house shopping, so.
Okay. All right. This is KE0TCM. Doc in Littleton. Did we answer your question adequately? Did you hear all our transmission?
Do you think it's more likely to be equipment or location?
Both.
I mean, if you think that spot would be better.
Up there a bit more.
Yeah, it's up on that side up there.